Thanksgiving review: Eli Roth turns his slasher movie trailer from grindhouse into a real slasher movie, and it's mostly slashing good fun. The holiday horror film is so out it's in. What was once a satire of it now plays like hip trash. Thanksgiving, a cheerfully debased, or maybe I should say debasted, slasher film directed by Eli Roth, marks the third time that one of the luscious mock trailers from Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez's Grindhouse has been spun into a feature film. The first such movie, Rodriguez's A Machete, worked better than anyone might have expected. It gave Danny Trejo perhaps the best lead role of his career, and it was tasty enough in its high-zooming vengeful action hyperbole to spawn a sequel. Roth's trailer for Thanksgiving, on the other hand, was a bloody perfect, outrageously transgressive parody of the holiday horror genre that had long gone out of style. The best thing about it may have been the narrator, with his ultra-low voice of deadpan drive-in psychosis, a white meat, dark meat. All will be carved. The Thanksgiving trailer, as indelible as a great mad parody, was 2.5 minutes of concentrated schlock heaven. Was it worth turning into an actual movie? It turns out that Thanksgiving has been perfectly timed, and I don't just mean because it's coming out on the eve of Thanksgiving weekend, though I suspect it will generate some box office gravy. The movie reconnects us with a genre that is so out it's in. Holiday horror movies may now seem as corny as a bowl of creamed corn, but David Gordon Green's rebooted A Halloween trilogy helped revive interest in them. And A Thanksgiving, I'd say, is juicier fun than they were, because it's so brazenly upfront about embracing how everything in the Grindhouse trailer, the way it walked the line between gruesome and preposterous, is, in fact, exactly what audiences have loved about these movies for 40 years. In the 70s, when the slasher film was coming into its own, with movies like Last House on the Left and The Hills Have Eyes and The Citizen Kane of the genre, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they were true nightmares on film or trying to be. But by the 80s, with the rise of the Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street series, as well as holiday slasher junk like Christmas Evil and Bloody New Year, they'd become something else, sick joke comedies with jump scares. They'd completely dispensed with the idea that we cared about who lived or died, and characters like Jason and Freddy were now showbiz heroes of cheeky terror, ringleaders that the audience cheered on. They were, with rare exceptions like A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, incredibly formulaic films. But that's where Eli Roth comes in. He's a highly skilled pulp practitioner, witty and shameless enough to be at once incorrect and diabolically unhinged. Thanksgiving follows the rules of the slasher genre, but it's got a more charged and entertainingly hyperbolic atmosphere than these movies used to have. It's set in Plymouth, Massachusetts, where a group of high school friends and a handful of adults who turn into collateral damage are stalked over the Thanksgiving holiday by a maniac named John Carver, who wears the tacky plastic mask of a kitsch Plymouth Rock pilgrim. In the Grindhouse trailer, his face was just buried in shadow, as well as a pilgrim's hat and uniform. He looks creepy enough to be a cosplay mascot of death. Before it gets to Carver's rampage, though, the film kicks off on Thanksgiving the year before, when the local Right Mart big box store is about to open its doors for Black Friday, which now starts on Thursday night. The overflow crowd that has lined up in the parking lot is so hyped it looks like it's waiting for a glimpse of Taylor Swift. The prospect of buying a waffle iron for 50% off is enough to provoke mass hysteria. The Black Friday as riot sequence that follows is an acidly funny piece of social satire. There's already a killer on screen, and it's the consumer culture. After several people emerge injured or dead, the stage is set for a small-town soap opera of guilt and recrimination. Which, of course, is what every slasher movie is really about. Roth, working from a script he wrote with Jeff Rendell, lines up the usual array of suspects and Walking Dead meet: the heroine, Jessica Nelverlock, who's the daughter of the geek, Rick Hoffman, who owns the store and didn't order enough security, her princess stepmother, Karen Cliché, her boyfriend, Bobby Jalen Thomas Brooks, whose pitching arm was injured in the melee and who hasn't been heard from since, her new boyfriend, the deceptively nice overachiever Ryan Milo Manheim, a handful of jock louts and mean girls, and Sheriff Newland, Patrick Dempsey, the eager beaver mensch law enforcer. Roth, working in a 50-year-old genre, incorporates elements of more contempo horror. Thanksgiving has the fast break patter of the Scream films, not the we're fighting off a slasher as if we were in a slasher movie meta quality, which has gotten old anyway, but the precociousness that drives it. The movie also shares the design of the recent Saw sequel, with John Carver targeting characters who are linked, in a culpable way, to that Black Friday riot. The film makes canny use of social media, as Carver live streams his climactic atrocity. It has witty moments like the one where Jessica hides from the killer by blending in with a bunch of mannequin heads. Mostly, though, Thanksgiving is a movie about a slasher treating his victims like turkeys waiting to be slaughtered and trust. The film recreates several key moments of the Grindhouse trailer, like the Thanksgiving parade with its decapitated turkey mascot, the insanely gruesome episode with a cheerleader bouncing on a trampoline, and the climatic Thanksgiving sequence, in which Carver assembles his victims around a table for a dinner that's a gag in every sense. The Grindhouse trailer was a joke, and the movie, you could say, is still a joke. But here's the difference. In 2007, when A Grindhouse came out, the whole feel of that trailer, what made it satire, is that it was a shade too goofy in its sadism, too gruesomely absurd. It all went a little too far. That trailer can now be a movie because a movie called Thanksgiving that has an insane pilgrim staging homicide as holiday dinner just seems like what it is, this week's what the hell trash. To put it another way, who wouldn't want seconds?